Okay, everybody, welcome back in. This is the 21 off season, working our way through the New York Jets roster. And that brings us today to Marcus Maye. The nerd train today is on full steam, going down the tracks. This is the kind of stuff we love to look at here. We're going to break down what a potential contract for Marcus Maye might look like. I have no clue what the Jets are going to do. I know they're going to try to re-sign him for how much money. I have no clue. And whatever they decide to do will be fine, of course. This is just our take on it today. When you look at a guy like this, and you know everybody wants him back, and you're trying to decide how much money to offer. The things that are most important to me if I'm building a team are A, how consistent has the player been? Has he been good for all 4 seasons he's been in the league? Or has he simply had a career year and now everybody wants him because he looked good in year 4? And we see that a lot with different players, but with Marcus Maye, he has been incredibly consistent his entire time here in New York. Year number 1, his rookie season, he put together a very good year. Year number 2, he got even better, had an outstanding season. Year number 3, struggled a little bit. It didn't see quite the Marcus Maye that we were accustomed to in year number 3, but last season, 2020, he comes roaring back without Jamal Adams on the field and just has an outstanding season. He's all over the place. He's guarding people. He's playing slot CB. He's in the box. An outstanding season for Marcus Maye. He's not a problem in the locker room. He has not had a consistent or long nagging injury history, so that's not really something that you project to worry about. This looks like a guy who literally checks all the boxes of somebody that I want to give a lot of money to stay with my team, and so that's important. The other thing you start to worry about is I still want to win. Okay, this isn't a mom and pop organization. I'm not here to finish 8-8. I still want to compete for Super Bowls, not just this year, but every season. I want to compete for Super Bowls. And that's really where the money starts to kick in, and you have to start asking the question, how much is too much? Okay, and that's important. You might read media sites who act like, well, it doesn't matter. We just want this guy back. But it does matter. It matters in every sense of the word how much money and where is the line at to bring this player back, because I want to win. As much as I love Marcus Maye, and as much as I want to make my fan base happy, above all, I want to win. And I don't win by handing market contracts to players that I'm trying to re-sign. So I'm not going to do that. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But for Marcus Maye, yes, we all love him. He's a tremendous player. I don't think we've seen the best of him. And I think that he's going to get better, and he checks all the boxes if somebody would want to hand this kind of money to. So starting out, I've got a 5-year, $65 million deal. That's a little bit on the low end. Absolutely. That's about $13 million a season cap hit for me. Some people call that average annual value, but AAV can be kind of deceptive sometimes. The cap hit that I'm looking at each season right here is about $13 million, and that's a little bit on the low side. Why would Marcus Maye even entertain a contract that's a little bit on the low side? Well, for this reason, because I'm offering a signing bonus of $15 million, which is cash up front, which means as soon as he signs that contract, within a week or two, just depending on processing, he's got $15 million in cash. And so that is something that's important to a lot of players. Whether or not that will be important to Marcus Maye remains to be seen. But for me, offering him this signing bonus of $15 million starts to lay the groundwork for what I want right here at 5 years, $65 million, which leads to my $13 million cap hit, which is the most important thing to me by far. Also, guaranteed at signing. This is such an important number for so many contracts. There are very few contracts, I mean just a handful in the NFL, who are so structured that you can't find a way out of it, and the contract shrinks and becomes much less than the blockbuster deal everybody thought it was going to be in the first place. Very few contracts are like that, and that's why the guaranteed at signing number is so important. Right here, what I'm willing to basically guarantee at signing is more or less half of the first season, and then the signing bonus itself. I can negotiate that. I can move off of this, and we will here in a second. But for the first look at this contract, I want to be at 5 years, $65 million with a $15 million signing bonus with a guaranteed at signing of $20 million. And the cap hit really would be $13 million. I just left it at 14 because of where we're going today. I don't think Marcus Maye is going to sign this. I really don't. we're going to move off of this. This is just a starting point. This is just where I would like to be as a franchise. I don't think this particular signing bonus of $15 million is going to be enough for him to want to settle for 5 years and $65 million. So what I'm really willing to do instead then is move off of this guaranteed at signing and move right here to $30 million guaranteed at signing, in addition to which I'm willing to put in an option bonus of $8 million, which is about $2 million per year during the last 4 years of the contract. And that's going to change this deal right here from 5 years 65 to about 5 years $73 million, okay? And this is really the upper end. And this puts it at about just under $15 million cap number. This is really my upper end right here. Now, is this a fair deal? Depends on who you ask. Depends on what else you're looking at. Let's look around the league at what other safeties are making. And it really doesn't matter, free safety, strong safety. When you're on the high end, they're pretty much making the same amount. You start to see some differences show up when you get down to the mid-range guys. But the upper end guys, free safety, strong safety, it really doesn't seem to make a difference. On the high end, they really seem to cap out at about the same amount. If you roll over to some of the websites like Spot Tracker, over the cap, you're going to find two guys who are making more money than Marcus Maye would next year in 2021. Those guys are Tyrann Mathieu for the Kansas City Chiefs and Landon Collins for Washington. They are both making, Mathieu is making about $19.7 million next year. But Tyrann Mathieu went to free agency, and Tyrann Mathieu only had a 3-year deal. When you're looking at what other guys are making, it's really important to remember guys who actually went all the way through to free agency can make more. They absolutely can make more. Guys who re-sign with their teams tend to make about 10 to 15% less. So teams re-signing players get discounts. Why do they do that? For two reasons. Usually they're willing to offer a signing bonus right up front. That gives a guy cash right then. He doesn't have to wait a year or two to hit free agency. The other reason is you get the guaranteed money and the big contract right then. You don't have to play another season or two and risk injury and risk losing all of that money and risk losing that big contract. So that's usually why guys are willing to re-sign with their teams, because they get cash a year or two earlier and because they get the guaranteed money a year or two earlier. What if Marcus Maye hates my deal and hates my offers? Well, he doesn't have to sign them. He can refuse to sign them. What will I do as the New York Jets franchise at that point? I'm going to pull out the franchise tag and I'm going to offer him a 1-year franchise tag in which he's going to make a lot of money. I don't know the exact number. It's probably around $17 million. And again, I don't remember exactly. He'll make a lot of money for one season, but he will not have any cash up front and he will not have any long-term contracts. So if he were to get injured during that season, he could lose all of this or lose a lot of it. So there's things going both ways. Now, if Marcus Maye says, I'm not going to play for you under that franchise tag, that's when it starts to get a little public and a little bit ugly. And that's when you start to see guys sitting out training camp and you start to see guys sitting out the first week of the season. And in some cases, we've seen a couple of guys sit out the entire season. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage people to do what is best for them. So if I were Marcus Maye's agent and Marcus Maye is really giving me every signal, every intent that he wants to make every dollar possible, I encourage him to go through the process to do that. It's a long process. It's not easy. Sometimes you get criticized by fans and by media and by teammates, and it can be long and ugly. But if that's important to you, and there's nothing wrong with that, that is just fine. If it's important to Marcus Maye or to any other player to get into free agency and make every bit as much money as they can, I encourage them and support them to do that. Because really for most of these players, they only get one shot at this. They get one shot at one very large contract right there in the middle of their season, right in their prime years. And that's their chance. You know, yes, they may have another contract after that, but for most players, it's not going to be as big. It's just not going to be as big when they're 30 and 31 as it is when they're 26, 27, whatever age they happen to be. So if Marcus Maye doesn't like these terms, doesn't like this deal, as his agent, I encourage him, but it takes a while, and you are running the risk of getting injured, or you are running the risk of having an ugly public spat with the Jets, or you are running the risk of having to sit out an entire season and then do it all over again next off season. So a lot of guys opt out of that. A lot of guys, when it comes to year 3 or year 4, and the team comes offering the contract something like this, even though it's less than what they can make in free agency, a lot of guys go ahead and sign it because, hey, if I'm happy with the city I live in, if I'm happy with this franchise, if I'm happy with my coach, if I'm happy with my place here, if the contract overall is pretty fair, then yeah, why not go ahead and take the money, get that guaranteed contract, get that long-term contract, get that upfront signing bonus cash, which everybody loves. Why not go ahead and take that? And that's what most players do. And I have no problem with either player who goes either way. So if Marcus Maye isn't going to get a market offer from me, and again, if you look up Landon Collins, he'll be making, I think, $17.2 million next season. He's got a 6-year deal. He really got the blockbuster deal. But even his deal, Landon Collins, can be broken up. And I may even do a video later on showing how. But just keep in mind, Landon Collins and Tyrann Mathieu both went all the way through to free agency, had teams bidding on their services, and got to pick the one that they wanted, which was the highest offer, I think, in both cases. So it's a process. If you want to get there, you can, but it takes time and patience and sometimes a little bit of ugliness. And that's what Tyrann Mathieu and Landon Collins did, and that's why they have cap numbers next year of 19.7 and 17.2 respectively. Now, what are guys making at the safety position who have recently signed contracts who are somewhere near the age bracket of Marcus Maye and the talent level of Marcus Maye, but who just went ahead and re-signed with teams? That brings us to the next 2 guys on the list, and that is Budda Baker for the Cardinals, and that is, I think, Keith, I can never remember, I'm sorry, Keith or Kevin Byard, I think it's Keith Byard for Tennessee. They are both in roughly the same talent level and roughly the same age bracket as Marcus Maye. Now, truthfully, at this point in their careers, I think Marcus Maye is a little bit better than both of them. Now, he's 2 years older than Budda Baker. Budda Baker is a good 2 years younger than Byard or than Maye. But talent level wise, these guys are in the same stratosphere, okay? I think Marcus Maye has been more consistent. I think Byard has actually struggled a little bit the past 2 seasons compared to what he was making before he got the big money. Budda Baker has been very consistent, but I don't think has played up to the level of Marcus Maye. Baker gets a lot of publicity, and he should. He's a very good player, and I think will continue to get better. But if you're looking for guys to compare contracts to, it's going to be those 2 guys right there, Byard and Baker, who both signed pretty large deals. Now, this deal right here, 5 years, $73 million, $15 million signing bonus, $8 million option, $30 million guaranteed at signing, with a cap, an average annual value, a cap hit of about and just under $15 million, is actually significantly better than what Budda Baker signed or what Byard signed. So this is why this is the absolute limit for me right here. I'm not going past this. Now, the Jets may, and people in the media may, but you know, a lot of times people in the media, their jobs aren't on the line. They're not looking ahead to 2022 or 23 or 24. A lot of times, seriously, all they're looking at is, we like this guy, so here's a bunch of money. This is a contract that is better than what Byard has and is better than what Baker has. Neither one of those guys has a guaranteed at signing of $30 million. They're both around $19, $20 million guaranteed at signing. Neither one of these guys had a signing bonus of $15 million. They were right around $9 million and $10 million respectively. The only thing in which they're on even course here with Marcus Maye contract is the average annual value or the cap hit, which for Byard was $14 million. We are now past that with this number here. And with Budda Baker, he's at $14.75 million average annual value / cap hit. And we're just right about at that, okay? So we are competitive right here with 2 other guys who over the past couple of seasons, somewhere in that age bracket, somewhere in that talent level, signed contracts at the safety position. We're actually better than that in the signing bonus area, the guaranteed at signing area, the option area. And if that isn't enough, I'm not moving off of this. This is so important to me if I'm running a team, building a team. Again, I want to compete for Super Bowls, and I can't do it if I'm handing out market contracts. And if I've got to start handing out $17 million AAV or $19 million cap hits to safeties, I cannot compete at the Super Bowl level. I just can't do it. And I want to get there. I know I'm not there yet with the Jets here. We're at the other end, but I have very high hopes here, and I should. Any NFL team should, because it's so easy really to compete and get back into that mid-range group. I will not compete at Super Bowl levels if I'm handing out 17 or $19 million a year to safeties over the next 3 or 4 seasons. I just won't get there. So this is where I want to be. 14 and a half, $14.75 million. That's my max out point. And that's a fair deal based on what we're looking at in the market, and that's where I'm at. The one thing I would add, if this still isn't enough for Marcus Maye, I don't think we've seen the best out of him. If Marcus Maye wants a couple of performance bonuses kicked in there, I'm more than happy to do that. If he hits All Pro, I'm more than willing to put in a $1 million All Pro bonus for every season that he makes the All Pro team. I'm less willing to do that for Pro Bowl appearances, because Pro Bowl appearances and Pro Bowl voting is so inconsistent. It is just all over the map. Some years there is like all-star voting in the NBA. It is all over the place. There are guys every year who get a lot of attention and make a lot of noise and should not be Pro Bowlers, and there are guys every year who are very quiet and their performance level is through the roof, and they cannot seem to get on a Pro Bowl team. So I'm not willing to hand out Pro Bowl bonuses. I'm more than happy, though, every year that Marcus Maye reaches the All-Pro team, which is possible for him to hand out $1 million bonus for that. Yes, that's going to raise my cap number, but I'm willing to do that if he's making the All-Pro team. So that's where I'm at. That's a little bit of a sloppy look at all of this today. Some of you guys I know will want to offer him more. Some of you guys will not want to offer that much. I'm sure every NFL exec that we talk to will be very different on this as well. This is just me today based on everything that we've seen. If you got any questions, hit me up on the comments. Have a great one. Goodbye.